Fighting can be seen as a primal instinct, fight or flight, do or die. Yet, throughout the ages, civilization have had some form of fighting as a sport, or combat sport. In the first ancient Olympics in Greece, there were wrestling and boxing, and across the world now, there are many different forms of fighting practices, or martial arts, such as Lethwei, Muay Thai, Judo, Senegalese wrestling, Sambo, and many more. Yet, why does any of this matter to game studies where we focus more on video games and board games? Allow me to use MMA, or mixed martial arts, one of the most popular combat sports of the world today, and apply Housinger's The Magic Circle and how fight culture plays into it. Housinger, a Dutch historian whose cultural works are still relevant and talked about today, with many people expanding on and discussing his work, especially the work around the Magic Circle. Yet, why is the Magic Circle relevant to MMA? The Magic Circle is defined as a playground marked off before play is in play, with special rules, where the ordinary world and ordinary rules is put to the side and those in play are fully dedicated to the performance of an act. Some special rules of the Magic Circle may include what is or isn't worn, or how one can and can't act, how to win or lose during play, and only in the bounds of play does it matter for if the rules of real life come into action, the Magic Circle, it will break the magic and the circle. An important aspect of the Magic Circle is play itself. Play refers to the full immersion of what is at play and to participate fully and freely to that experience. From play and the Magic Circle, play communities can form outside of the circle, forming cultures and communities surrounding the act of play. So, how does Housinger's Magic Circle connect to the world of mixed martial arts and form the phenomena I would like to call the Magic Octagon? The Magic Octagon forms when two participating fighters do all the pre-fight requisites and requirements and step into the cage, knowing the doors will lock behind them, with only them and the referee, and having the referee meet them in the middle to confirm if they know the rules and if they fully understand what is going to happen before the fight starts. When they go back to the corners, the clock starts to count down, and then they fully prepare what is ahead of them. While I agree with Housinger's definition of the Magic Circle, it doesn't fully apply to the Magic Octagon or the sport of MMA. MMA has created a subculture where those who spectate the sport will then go on to wear the merchandise of their favourite fighters or MMA organisations or other fight-related brands, as well as play video games like EA Sports UFC 4, trying to simulate how fighters would behave in reality, having watch parties and rooting for fighters, all similar qualities presented in Conway's FIFA Magic Circle, where they participate in rituals to get closer to that experience. The experience is even heightened further in UFC 4 by the career mode, where the fight fan or player can make a fighter go from an amateur fighting under a bridge to a UFC champion and perhaps a double champion. But most of the career mode is filled with training and learning techniques, improving the stats of fighters, which can take up more time than the actual fight itself, which can end in 4 seconds compared to 20 minutes of training or game time. While UFC 4 is still a sports-themed game, and Crawford words are sold pre-packaged elements of the sport in a standardized and formulaic format in which each iteration gets tweaked slightly and given a veneer of individuality. But I would argue that this validation of sport game doesn't relate to the UFC game or its franchise, fully based on the capitalistic view Crawford put onto these games, but more the fantasization of the true horror fighters actually go through. The magic circle is defined as something outside of reality, but in the words of the UFC motto, the magic octagon is as real as it gets. While the actual fight match follows Housinger's definition, the actual fight preparation and fight camp for those in combat sports, before they even get into a fight, is much more intense than the actual fight itself, to the point where most injuries from the sport come from training for fights. Then fighters have to train and learn techniques, watch tape, and learn as much as they can about their opponent and make a game plan to come out the victor, which is similar to what is presented in combat as an interpersonal synergy, where both fighters have to co-adapt their behavior to outwit and outfight each other. Another big thing is the fight weight and weight cutting. To reach that weight. From most water cuts or changes to diets, where most fighters lose weight and make disastrous weight cuts of 20 pounds or about 10 kilograms in a month or even a week, which can cause massive health and psychological issues, some being food eating disorders or a lack of muscle deterioration. And most of these are discussed in the Food and Weight Combat, a problematic fight for the elite combat sports athlete. An interesting read. The Magic Circle would seem to ignore this part of the actual fight game, whereas the Magic Octagon encompasses the fight journey to the cage, from fight camp and weight cutting to the act of throwing fists, kicks, takedown submissions, are all a part of that, fully acknowledging what it takes to get into the cage. Combat sports in general around the world follow similar patterns of MMA and the Magic Octagon, of martial artists participating in fights and match themselves and participating in pre-fight preparations such as training, learning, making sure they make the right weight, making a game plan for the match ahead, and to the subculture of fans of these combat sports by participating viewing the matches, joining in conversations, and playing combat sports games, and some even training the martial arts as well. The Magic Octagon is as multifaceted as the fighters in the combat sports themselves. It isn't as clear as Housinger's definition of the magic circle of where the playground is, because the playground in the Magic Octagon and for these fighters is the journey of the fight game itself, making sure they've got the right longevity for their fights, the years of training, learning the fight game, honing the body and mind, sacrificing the health to be better and to improve. The fight game is so volatile, so emotional, so raw that any little thing can swing the decision of the match, the winner or loser. Right now we're seeing Anthony Pettis, who backed out of the fight because of a broken hand, and before we saw Tony Ferguson in such an emotional state because of it, even though he won. Words cannot truly describe the emotion behind fighting a person, deciding to get into the cage to prove that you're the best. That's why I've wanted to put more emotion into this, but the Magic Circle cannot describe it. That's why I use the Magic Octagon, because it puts the human back into it instead of making it seem so outside of reality, when in truth most sports and games rely on the human emotion to make it seem magical. Even though right now we're seeing two people bloodied up, swinging fists, I truly believe that the Magic Octagon is a better way to describe it because it puts the emotion back into the game, the fight game.